Hello and welcome to the Delta stream. In this video we'll be playing through Pokemon Soul Silver, but with a unique twist. I've edited Delibird to have Snow Warning as an ability, slightly improved stats, and an actual move pool by level up. Funnily enough, this is my first ever full playthrough of Pokemon Soul Silver, since I didn't have a copy growing up. So I'm going through parts of it blind. Please feel free to leave comments of suggestions of improvements to the edit I may have missed due to lack of familiarity as I go through. This video is a follow-up from the previous video where I go into depth as to the exact changes and rationale for them. It's a quick 10 minutes, so I recommend watching that one before this one for context. But without further ado, let's jump into our festive adventure with our new character, the Jolly Trainer, Nick. I placed the new Delta variant of Delibird in the first route, so we could capture a random one and replace our standard Delibird, which is our starter. We can see its Snow Warning in action and catch it, naming it Santa. Santa has a naive nature, and whilst Jolly would have been more thematically appropriate, we appreciate the speed, so we take it. The first dungeon of the game is Sprout Tower, which is a breeze for our ice-flying friend. Here he is a direct upgrade to the other likely companion in the base game, Hoot Hoot. It would have Stab Peck, but its base stats are a poor showing compared to our buffed bird of the Borealis. Delibird here already learns weak but very useful stab moves for coverage in Peck and Powder Snow, picking up Sing at level 12 at the end of the tower. Ice is nice against Faulkner, the flying gym leader. In fact, too nice. I've seen people criticize the notoriously late availability of most ice types in the early Pokemon games. But here we can see why that usually would be. Early game mons are not balanced for the offensive power of ice, especially from a fully evolved one-stage Pokemon like our dear Santa. I won't dwell on this section since it is a breeze, but just want to take the chance to ask where you think it would be balanced for a buffed Delibird to be encountered in this version of the game. Let me know in the comments below. Ironically, base Delibird would make for a great early ice encounter because it doesn't actually learn ice moves to disrupt other birds, and has an even lower base stat total to balance it. But as we can see, Santa comfortably two-shots Faulkner's ace, Pidgeotto, with a crit on Powder Snow and wins us the Zephyr badge and the Roost TM, which may come in handy if our feathered friend wants to get cozy. Though I have included Wish for recovery in its natural learn set. We pick up the gift egg from the scientist, and this reminds me of another reason I wanted to play through this version. Not only is Johto a weaker region and Delibird's natural home, but there is an abundance of gift encounters, which I thought appropriate for the generous Santa's teammates. Equally, the gifts we receive from our mom throughout the playthrough are thematically appropriate. They also provide opportunities to use Natural Gift, a move I want Delibird to shine with. We pick up the cozy Slugma egg from Primo to round out our team a little bit as well. As early as the Ruins of Alph, Delibird's HM capacity can also shine, since the shards from Rock Smash can be farmed for berries, which can translate into unique natural gift attacks. I wanted to integrate Delibird into the overworld interactions as much as possible, to exemplify its utility within a team of potentially stronger mons. Rock Smash specifically is useful coverage for our quad weakness to rock, which becomes apparent with how my heart sinks every time we cross paths with a hiker around Union Cave. We then have our first encounter with Team Rocket, where Santa proves himself well against the Flying Zubat and relatively weak poison types, putting them firmly in the naughty list. Once we clear Rocket out of Slowpoke Cave, we can challenge Bugsy. We're one level above the level cap, since we've only been using one Pokemon the whole time, giving us access to Pluck. But the strategy against Scyther was to use a Wiki Berry to use a 4x super effective Rock type Natural Gift to KO the main threat. It was a crit here, but I'm pretty sure it would have one-hit KO anyway. Hail would have helped too if the Cocoon Pokemon tried setting up Hardens, but Pluck makes quick work of them too, clearing the second gym and winning us the Hive badge and the U-Turn TM. U-Turn is a move that I have made available to Delibird and is crucial to its Snow Warning synergy, as we will see later. Our Togepi egg hatches just after the second gym, and we name him Eggnog. Unfortunately, he has hustle and a calm nature, reducing accuracy of physical moves and having a minus attack nature. But we won't look a gift egg in the shell and bring him along for the adventure. We now have our first significant battle against our rival, Grinch. We are able to switch train Eggnog to share the experience away from Santa, and thankfully switch out of Curse. I actually forgot to put the game mode to set since I I'd only had one Pokemon in my party so far, so I only switch it here and play the rest of the game in set mode. Seeing Grinch's Bayleaf, I'm reminded that in my head I equated ice and water, so my starter had replaced the Totodile, which I forgot would give Silver a Chikorita, which we are strong against. But ultimately that doesn't matter, this isn't a hardcore Nuzlocke. Plus, Green and the Grinch go well together. In the Ilex Forest, we get our helpful elf, Rattata, to headbutt trees for our next encounter, Pineco. This encounter method is not one I'm the most familiar with and can be frustrating to find low-chance Pokemon, especially when they explode. But I like the idea of non-traditional encounter methods, which have developed throughout the series. Purely walking through grass can be a bit annoying, and methods like these, or especially fishing, have an element of actively seeking out certain Pokemon. But anyway, Wreath the Pineco is a welcome addition to our team. Next we move on to Whitney's Gym, where our Slugma egg hatches and Coco provides some much needed type coverage to our squad. I was accidentally overleveled slightly by battling some optional trainers on my way to the gym, but of course it's still fine since this isn't a hardcore run. I had wanted a Leper Berry for fighting type coverage with Natural Gift, but I didn't find one, so I had to approach this in a more straightforward way. If I could use Pineco to tank some hits and eat the Miltank's Lumberry with Bug Bite, then I could switch Delibird in and use a combination of Sleep, Hail Chip, and Rock Smash to take the notorious threat down. The Yawn strategy works despite some flinches from Stomp, and Santa finds his target just like he likes him, asleep and full of milk. We managed to get the Miltank to just a sliver of HP as Delibird survives the first hit of a 4-time super effective rollout. But we go down to the second hit, leaving Miltank on what must be 1 HP. Santa's Hail clutches the victory from beyond the grave, securing us the win with the all-important hail damage. This strategy worked, and Hail proves to be very useful against high HP opponents like Miltank, even where Delibird's own strength is relatively low. After some whining, Whitney grants us the plain badge and the Attract TM. On our way out of the city, we pick up some gift berries in the department store and cannot refuse to help someone in need of delivering a Pokemon. We stop by the underground to snap a pic with our best buddy, Santa, who brings us season's greetings. It's nice to take a moment to appreciate how much he's been able to accomplish in the early portion of the game, when given the tools to do so. And I'm loving the chance to use an iconically designed Pokemon in a new way like this. The next task is to awaken the Funny Tree, which I wanted to make my next encounter in the style of a fake Christmas tree. I use a combination of Yawn and Togepi's weak attacks to bring the Sudowoodo safely low, but the darn thing won't stay in the ball. After a lot of struggle, I decide to try and edge it to red HP, but land a crit and lose the chance to add it to my team. It's not the end of the world, but I was excited to use one in my playthrough, since I never have done in the past. And he looks like such a fun little guy. I enjoy the idea of static one-time encounters, but the special feeling of being able to use one wouldn't be there if there wasn't the risk or the frustration of losing out on getting one. Alas, we move. Next up are a couple of double battles. These were added to the game from Gen 3 onwards, so these are exclusive to the remakes. Doubles is where I was hoping Delibird would shine most, with spread moves like Icy Wind, supporting moves like Helping Hand, and the Hail Weather effect damaging both opponents. I think doubles are really underused in the series, and they tend to provide more interesting battle interactions in my opinion. With the low level of the opponents at this stage, and restriction to 2 Pokemon total, it isn't as interesting as it could be. I hope there are more double battles in the post-game I can try at a later point. The second double battle proves more interesting, especially with Togetic pulling Earthquake from Metronome, demonstrating how Delibird's flying type could be useful, either in combination from Earthquake on their team, or switching into ground moves from the opponent, setting up Hail in the process. Further along the same route, we catch our next encounter, Stantler. Hail proves it's not just useful for taking down big foes, but also whittling down the HP of wild Pokemon without the risk of critical hits. We get Stantler asleep and as low as possible before successfully adding him to our team. It turns out none of the other reindeer wanted to play with him, and it makes sense since he has Frisk instead of Intimidate. Though he may not have a bright red nose, he will be able to shine our path to victory at the next gym, so we name him Rudolph. Before we can take on the gym, however, we must explore the burned tower. where we have another showdown with our rival, Grinch. He sends out Ghastly, so we pivot into Eggnog to see if its immunity to Ghost will prove effective into the next gym battle. We are indeed safe from a lick, but get hit with a nasty curse before securing the kill with super effective extrasensory. We're left with the curse, taking a quarter of HP per turn until we switch out. Coco levels up from that KO, but is still too low level to be able to deal with the incoming Steel-type Magnemite. So we land a Yawn to facilitate a switch. The paralysis is lucky too, since it would guarantee we won't get statused ourselves on the switch. But since this isn't a Nuzlocke, I'm able to get a 100% safe switch by allowing Eggnog to faint on the turn the Magnemite falls asleep. This should hopefully allow Coco to get some needed XP. However, after a few embers, Magnemite wakes up and knocks Coco out with a single Thundershock. Our newly caught Rudolph picks up the kill, then puts Bayleaf to sleep on the switch to make way for Santa, who threatens with super effective Powder Snow and Pluck. Zubat would be easy work for the ice attacks, but I wanted to get more EXP on the Stantler, who I also want to get use out of in the upcoming gym fights. Morty has 4 Pokemon, so I brought my own chosen 4 for this occasion. Rudolph has super effective Astonish, coming off a slightly higher attack stat, and Confuse Ray and Hypnosis to disrupt and switch. Santa's main offense is still centered around Pluck and Powder Snow, though if we had the right berry we could launch a natural gift. Wreath is there just to bug bite, get Hail Chip, and be a safe switch if needed. Eggnog, as we've seen, can launch off extrasensories without having to worry about incoming ghost attacks. There isn't much of a specific strategy going into the fight beyond just using what we have at the moment, but it would be nice to have better abilities for Rudolph and Eggnog for sure. The first Ghastly always goes down to a single Astonish, and sends itself back to the Spirit Realm with a curse on the same turn. Haunter comes out next and takes half from Astonish before it puts us to sleep with Hypnosis. This gives us a free switch, which I waste into Wreath on a Dream Eater. I just switch again, hoping for a Ghost move into the immune Eggnog, but we get slept and take some Dream Eater damage before securing the KO with super effective extrasensory. Gengar is sent out and traps us in with Mean Luck, which gives us a free extrasensory hit, which does just under half. The only damaging move this Gengar has against us is Sucker Punch, which does little damage before we land a second hit, which leaves it with a sliver before its berry puts it hopefully just out of heal range. I forget why I was then trying to stall it, maybe to get free XP on another Mon or a free switch. Either way, I end up just taking the kill, and have a bit of a back and forth with the final Haunter before it gets the kill, and I send in Santa to get the W with a firm Pluck. We gain the Fog Badge and the TM Shadow Ball. On the next route, we look for our next encounter, which was by far the hardest to secure. After some bad luck with other abilities, I decided I wanted the perfect star to put at the lead of my Christmas party, though we sadly lost our tree encounter. However, a half of all Staryu have the ability Illuminate, which is worse than useless since it would increase wild encounters. Then, the ones which did have Natural Cure ended up having minus special attack natures, for what I wanted to be a special powerhouse. I enjoy fishing as an encounter method, but this was quite tedious, and I was reminded of why in most playthroughs I prefer going with the flow and taking the first encounter I find. Nature and ability luck can be almost as frustrating as finding that perfect Christmas gift. In the end, we end up with Alpha the Staryu and teach it Surf in order to access the rest of the map. In Cyanwood City, we also received the perfect gift wrap present that is Shucky. We unwrap it and find some sweet berry juice too. Johto is a great region to play for gift encounters, which I may use for another Merry Challenge run in the future, consisting solely of gift encounters. I wasn't recording, but I got my first freeze with Powder Snow against a Fearow, which went down easily enough anyway, but I thought I'd make a note. Powder Snow has felt strong offensively, but not leagues above other early stab super effective moves. I like it and think it suits this version quite nicely. That said, at level 27 we replace it with the more effective Icy Wind, which will be a staple throughout the rest of the run. And before you ask, yes, I did go back to the lighthouse, since I had never played through Johto and got a bit lost at this stage and cleared that area before going back and challenging Chuck. Chuck only has 2 Mons, which means with my rules I can only bring 2 of my own, which means bringing Santa plus 1 other. Both of my flying types don't resist fighting moves, so it's not going to be as simple as it may appear at first glance. But we've got a fighting chance for sure. Our newly learned Icy Wind won't be very useful, so we will use our best flying move, Pluck, which manages to get a clean one-hit KO with a crit. Next out is Poliwrath, who handily tanks a Pluck which deals about a third of its HP, and steals the citrus berry he left out as a treat for our Santa. Though it wasn't eaten in time to soothe Santa from the powerful Surf from Poliwrath, which does over half of his HP. I like to stay in and go for more damage from Hail and Pluck before bowing out and handing over to Eggnog, who doesn't even have a stab blind move and is still relying on extra sensory. After a heal, things are looking a bit dicey, but thankfully Poliwrath goes for Focus Punch and is cut down before he can knock our Eggnog out, granting us the victory and the Storm Badge. More importantly for Delibird, we now have Fly, which we can use to greater effect than Pluck. We also forget Miracle Eye, which didn't see any use in this playthrough, and replace it with the level up move Tailwind. We are close to the final set I'm looking to put it together for Delibird, but we are still stuck with Rock Smash until later, which coincidentally will be our strongest move into Jasmine's Steel types. Not going to lie, I actually thought Jasmine was an electric type gym leader before this playthrough, but my current team doesn't match up well into either steel or electric, so a change is needed. Following our star encounter, we need our 3 wise men, so I fly back to Cyanwood to look for an encounter that will guide us through this next challenge. On the way, we come across one of the few double battles where we can test some of Santa's moves, and there is nothing else noteworthy about this double battle. After a bit of a struggle, we catch the Diglett and name it Gaspard, and immediately evolve it into his true triple form. With our team renewed, we face Jasmine again. 4 times super effective stab earth power makes quick work of the opening Magnemite. We clearly did well to make this addition to our merry band. Gaspard's speed gets him a guaranteed earth power which does just over half of Steelix's HP before the berry, but a powerful Iron Tail from Jasmine's giant armoured serpent knocks us clean out. Alpha has his chance to shine now, washing Steelix away with a few super effective stab surfs, one of the most reliable offensive tactics in the game. The final Magnemite takes a surprising amount of damage from another surf before knocking us out. Low as ever, Coco takes a Thunderbolt and barely holds on with 3 HP before taking the final KO with an Ember. With the badge in hand, we go to the Lake of Rage to deal with a pesky Gyarados, who is trying to spoil Christmas for the residents of Mahogany Town. Our Hail is able to cancel out the effect of the existing rain on the route. I go for an Icy Wind for some chip, then my tactic is to use Fly plus Hail Chip to whittle it down. However, what I didn't realise was that Twister actually hits flying targets. This means Santa is unfortunately not able to 1v1 solo a Gyarados, even with Hail. We then pick up the choice specs for Alpha and make our way through the Rocket Hideout to fight the various executives. First is Petrol, whose poison types are quickly dispatched by our extra sensational Eggnog. His Raticate is a bit harder to deal with without super effective moves, but we go for a Metronome pull and get Blaze Kick, and then switch around a bit and deal with him. We follow a friendly Murkrow to our next major battle alongside Lance, after picking up the Thief and Snatch TMs, which Delibird would be able to learn in this version. We start off by targeting the opposing poison types again with Eggnog, then once we clear the first couple of Pokemon, I bring in Santa to see how he fares in this latest double battle setting. Icy Wind is able to make use of its spread damage with double slow, whilst Lance's Dragonite takes to the skies with its own Fly. With Hail Chip, that's almost a KO on the Murkrow straight away, but he holds on, so I use my own Fly to dodge any attacks targeting me, whilst Lance's Dragonite lands and Hail does its thing. Though we miss the minimizing Grimer, Hail never misses, and the Gloom poses very little threat into our flying duo. At the end of this fight, we learn Drill Peck by level up, which would be a more powerful move for Santa, but the playthrough restrictions on HMs mean that we stick with Fly as our current offensive move. Next we face Price for the 7th Gym Badge. He is himself an Ice-type trainer, which our own Delibird doesn't even resist due to his dual flying typing. I send out Staryu with choice specs as a lead since I wanted to face the Piloswine without having to hard switch in. Funnily enough, Price sets up his own Hail, which chips at us, and uses Rest a few times to recover. But even our resisted Surfs manage to pull through and we can KO the incoming Piloswine with ease. By the time I send out our own Santa, Hail resets, but doesn't chip the enemy of course. Only makes their Blizzards 100% accurate. This will be the only fight where Hail can actually work against us, which is another reason I didn't want to have Perma Hail up with the Piloswine. We spam super effective rock smashes to rack up some defense drops on the recovering Dugong until we win this icy battle of attrition, granting us the Glacier badge. We return to Goldenrod City to take on Team Rocket in the radio tower. But first, I stop by Bill's house to pick up an Eevee. I was hoping I'd be able to evolve it into a Glaceon for my final team, but unfortunately that's not possible until Kanto. In the radio tower, we don't get much use out of our cool outfit before we get our fun spoiled by the Grinch. Later, in our battle, I send out Santa to try to teach him the true meaning of Christmas, but things get a little confused, and I end up just hitting myself and fainting to some nasty air cutters. Eggnog comes in and finishes off the Nightmare Before Christmas, before unleashing a somewhat underwhelming roar of time into Grinch's Magnemite. We then keep spamming resisted extrasensories and let the hail do useful chip whilst we're paralysed. Sneasel then comes in, who is immune to both hail and extrasensory, so I hard switch into Coco hoping for an ancient power boost, but just get knocked out by a hard feint attack into incoming hail chip. Funny how the tables can turn with hail. I didn't even know he had a Sneasel when planning this run, but it provides an interesting matchup. The rest of the battle I kinda just speed through without much care, dropping Gaspar and then putting Rudolph into a position to save Christmas once more with Calm Mind set up and Shadow Ball to sweep. We match up very well against the flying Golbats, and with our psychic strength into their poison types, we make quick work of Team Rocket, leading us to Executive Ariana, who frankly is not much different. A combination of Hail Chip, Fly, and Icy Wind allows Santa to solo her fight without much fuss. Executive Archer's Houndour immediately poses a bit more of a threat with his fire moves, but Rock Smash on Santa is able to take advantage of the Dark type to dispatch with him. Houndoom will not be so easy, so I switch out into Starmie thinking it would use a fire move, but instead it went for Bite. This scenario showcases why Delibird's Tailwind would be useful, allowing my Staryu to outspeed and get the KO with a Specs boosted Surf. Nothing else can outspeed, so I'm now relying on that same hail to deal with the Dog of Doom. My Delibird is able to stall for a turn, and then land a hard hit onto the Coughing before the rest of my team comes in to finish the fight. We then continue our journey onto Icy Path, the first official ice route of the game. In the early Pokemon games, ice types are relegated to the late game, probably since they were seen as a rare encounter to the all-powerful Dragon type. However, as many have pointed out, ice types tended to be quite slow and frail. Ice cannons, if you will, leaving them not that effective. It is easier to teach a stronger Pokemon Ice Beam for coverage than to dedicate yourself to an ice type so late in the game. As we have observed in this run though, even a Delibird can be lethal early on, the way that the games have been designed. So there is merit to the other side. I do wish that perhaps in some of the earlier caves weak ice types like Delibird were available, since otherwise the underrated type is locked behind 7 badges. Thankfully in more recent games this aspect is addressed. Also while we're here in the Icy Path, I'll make a quick comment about ice puzzles. They are fun sparingly. They're one of the few areas in Pokemon with real puzzles that can pose a challenge, and overall it would be better if there were just more variety within the puzzles. They can be frustrating, but they shouldn't be hard enough to stop kids from playing through the 8 badges they need it for. Curiously, at the level range in Icy Path, wild Delibirds seem to love using Heal Bell. I'm not sure why this is, but it looks nice and could even be explained by the Pokemon's carrot, wanting to be friendly to everyone who comes by. We make some additions to our team and pick up the Never Melt Ice for Santa's winds to blow even icier. At this stage in the game, my team is feeling a bit weak, so hopefully these Ice-type additions give us a better standing into the 8th Dragon Gym. We also finally are able to remove Rock Smash at the move deleter and add U-Turn to Delibird's repertoire. The team now should be more hail-centric. Within the Dragon Gym, Delibird doesn't feel too strong, considering the tankiness of Dragonairs. Before taking on the final gym battle, I evolve Pepe the Pig into a Piloswine and use a Water Stone on the Staryu to bring out its full brilliance. Claire leads with Gyarados, and Santa takes the attack debuff from Intimidate. I set up a Tailwind to boost my team's speed before U-turning into something better suited to dealing with this draconic Sea Snake. Unfortunately, that someone is not our Mrs. Claus. Honestly, I'm not sure what my thought process was on that one. I think I forgot to teach Jinx a strong neutral psychic move. I instead send out the tankier Piloswine, knowing Gyarados doesn't have a water move. We come out on top in the exchange, and out comes Kingdra. Luckily, we get a quick claw proc for a big chunk. I push my luck again, and come out on top with an incredibly unlikely quick claw crit Earthquake to secure the KO. And I don't push my luck here, and instead go for the safe stab priority Ice Shard or falling to a Fire Blast, which doesn't miss. From there, it's a relatively quick cleanup for Santa, though I would note that we are left on only 11 HP, so a base game Delibird would have been knocked out there. Thankfully, we have the Delta Delibird, and win the match to secure the 8th gym badge. Or rather we would if Claire wasn't a sore loser. Instead we must go into the Dragon's Den. First, we have a chance to show off the double battle benefits of the new Delibird, with a powerful Icy Wind sweeping away 2 Dratini, before Piloswine was even able to use his Earthquake synergy. After completing the quiz, we finally receive the Rising Badge, leaving us ready to face the Elite Four. However, that will wait until the next part of this Christmas series, where I will cover the endgame and postgame with our Delta Delibird. Until then, please subscribe to stay notified, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas.